Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will start now the 6th public lecture in this Internet Forum public lecture series here in Aalto University. But actually before that, I think many of us is waiting for the results from the United States, what will happen in the presidential election. So let me ask you, even if we can't vote, who of you think, it's not your opinion, not your own personal voting opinion, but how many of you think that Hillary Clinton will win? Raise your hand. Okay, and how many of you think that Donald Trump will win? Okay, I would say approximately 85% of us think that Hillary will win and 15% that Donald Trump. But we are not going to talk so much about the presidential election here this evening. Actually, we have a very important topic when we are talking about the digitalization, because we often forget the physical infrastructure and the importance of it when we are talking the digitalization and especially the future of it. That's why I'm very pleased to welcome CEO of the Cinia Group, Ari-Jussi Knaapila, who will be our first speaker. And then our second speaker is Mikael Nyberg, who is Director General in the Ministry of Transport and Communications. And as always, they are willing to answer your questions. But without further notice, Ari-Jussi, please, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, on my behalf as well. I have a great honor to talk to you today about the topic which is very close to my heart, networks and cables. And since I'm a sailor, Seacables are a particular target of my love. My name is Ari-Jussi Knaapila, and as Jarno mentioned, I'm representing a company called Cinia Group. I'm going to tell some words about it later. Some words about myself in brief. I graduated in this university about 30 years ago. I did my diploma work in IBM and stayed in the ID industry for the first 10 years of my professional career. In mid-1990s, I moved to telecommunication industry and been in that industry since that, starting and heading a lot of, or quite many number of Nordic larger and smaller telecom and ICT companies. Since late 2014, so last 2 years, I've been having a pleasure to be part of the Cinia Group. During the next 30 minutes or so, I will try to cover the following topics. So I will briefly tell about Cinia, the company. I will go through the what I would call a global telecom backbone, talking about optical undersea cables and cable systems very briefly. Still very quickly also something about the techniques in the optical systems to be able to understand also the security of the submarine cables and the optical systems, and then ending up my talk and presentation with a case example of a project called Sea Lion, which is one of the most kind of a public project that we have been involved in Cinia during past few years. Few words about Cinia. Cinia Group, it's a state-owned or predominantly state-owned company, so 77.5% is owned by the government of Finland, and remaining 22% by two financial investors, both familiar to Finnish people anyway, in Ilmarinen, the largest pension fund in Finland, and the other one is OP Group, a very large financial Finnish actor. We divide our business into two divisions. We have the Digital Infrastructure Services, which is a network-based business, and then we have the Digital Society Solution business line or division, which is developing and also supporting the systems and software development for our customers. We have a kind of a normal corporate structure. The only thing that I think that differs us from majority, if not all the companies in the world, is that we also have a cybersecurity council which is supporting our management, both board of directors and the group executives, with all sort of digitalization security issues, so both in our daily practices, but also in our own services. About 3-4 years ago, State of Finland woke up with a vision that something or many things needs to be done to improve our nation's connectivity in the global telecommunications space. One of the things was to build up a direct alternative cable route between Finland and Central Europe, and Cinia was created basically to be in charge of implementing this new connection. I will tell you, as I mentioned in the last part of the presentation, something more about that project. Cinia has a set of services, so we have the connectivity services basically on our own network. We are designing and building and operating also our customer networks, which are either running on our network or they have their own networks. We just introduced the cloud service and have a few new customers on those services already as well. We have a set of software developers providing our customers with customized software solutions, and we have operating center or service desk 24/7. We focus on serving customers who are providing critical services for the society in the segments of traffic, transportation, electricity distribution, healthcare, and so on. Part of our business is actually inherited by an acquisition of a company called Coronet, which was part of the state railways and the railways authorities even before that. So we have a very strong, let's say, the background in the traffic industry, all in all. And of course, we are also providing services to other telecom carriers in our network. Now entering into the main topic of today and starting that with a short video, because that's telling more than... Okay, thanks. So there is about, which was already mentioned in the video as well, there is about 300 submarine cables, cable systems in the world, and about 20 new projects ongoing, either already in the build-up phase or fully funded and is about to be started. And as mentioned also in the video, these submarine cables are actually carrying about 99% of all the international data. So they truly are the backbone of what we call today an internet. There's always been a great need for connectivity between North America and Europe, and therefore actually the first cable systems that was launched, they were the transatlantic cables, and there is about 20 cables nowadays. The oldest optical cables already are close to 30 years old, so there is a huge amount of new projects ongoing as well. This is a picture or zoomed into the Baltic Sea, and as you can see, there's quite many connections, submarine cables in the Baltic Sea as well. Most of the traffic actually from Finland to Europe has been passing the submarine cables between Sweden and Finland, out of which also most of them are already 20 years or more old. If you look at the global data patterns, so here this is about 1 year old picture of the bandwidth in use between all the regions in the globe, and as we can see, there's a huge traffic between North America and Europe, and a very little between Europe and Asia directly. But it's slightly misleading because the majority of the traffic between Europe and Asia actually is going through transatlantic cables over the North America, and then through the trans-Pacific cables, and therefore actually it's clearly a demand for new connections directly between Asia and Europe as well. This diagram actually shows the costs of the connections between different regions, and this is actually the cost in US dollars per month for a 10 gigabits per second capacity. And as we can see, there's a huge amount of capacity over Atlantic, and therefore also the prices are quite cheap or moderate compared to, for instance, connections between Europe and South Africa or even States and Australia. And of course, the traffic always finds the less expensive route, so therefore the route between Europe and Asia over the Atlantic and Pacific cables is quite common. Here we can see how much new cable implementations has there been during past 20 years. And there was a boom in late 1990s and early 2000. Those who remember, there was a so-called dot-com boom at that time as well, and traffic in the internet was exceeding and expanding quite rapidly. Therefore, actually, after those years, there was quite a long period without any new major cables or cable implementation projects globally, until now lately there's been a kind of a sudden increase in these projects again. Very briefly, I'm not a scientist or even a specialist in the optical network systems, but briefly you could say that there is a certain more rule in this industry as well. And during the past years, there's been approximately a factor of 10 in growth of the capacity development in optical networks over the 4 years period. And that appears to be continuing. At the present, actually, the main, you'd say the standard, pretty much the standard capacity over one channel in the optical network system is about 100 gigabits, while we already have seen some 400 gigabits systems introduced lately. Actually, I just read about a month ago that there's been on the terrestrial side, also in Finland, between Espoo and Kajaani, the first 400 gigabit system launched. Wavelength that we are using in the optical systems is between 850 nanometers and 1500 nanometers about, which is the infrared spectrum. And if we go to the physical fiber cable itself, so it is normally consisting of 3 basic elements. There's the core, which is the fiber itself, which is carrying the signal, and there's a cladding, which is actually protecting the core, and then there's a coating, which is still another layer of protection in the cable. The core itself is a very thin, it's only about 10 micrometers, and then the width of the cladding is of course depending on how much you want to protect and what sort of a cable we are talking about, whether we are talking about the Seacable, which is of course then protected by several other layers as well. Then the physical cable will be then equipped with a transmission system where actually the fiber will be the transmission system is basically splitting one fiber to several channels or wavelength bands to increase the capacity of one single fiber pair. Few words about security of the optical cables in general or submarine cables in particular. Security in IT and telecommunications has become a major issue during the past 5 years, as we all know. And it also has become a significant industry, the cybersecurity or the protection of the IT and the telecommunication. So here is the prediction of the cybersecurity market in 5 years or 4 years' time. And as we can see, if you look at the compound global business, we are already talking about $150 billion business. Since internet is everywhere, unfortunately, it's becoming easier for basically anybody talented enough to tap into somebody else's information, and we are hearing about these stories daily. Optical cables are fortunately not the easiest to get into or tap into but even they are not 100% secured or protected. So basically by bending the fiber, first cutting or carving the outer layers out and getting into the core of the fiber and bending it, you can actually get about 1% of the light to leak out of the fiber. And then by magnifying it again and creating or copying the signals, so you can basically get even into the fiber optic signals and steal the information. There are several ways to monitor it. Of course, in most of the cases, you have to cut or interfere into the physical cable, and that can be monitored and seen. And that is exactly what we are doing already in the installation phase of the system, but also, of course, on the production phase of the system. Even submarine cables are not 100% safe. Not older than a couple of months ago, actually, the Washington Post was reporting that American submarines are becoming underwater hackers. So they have been creating equipments to get into the submarine systems, and if Americans are doing that, we can imagine that some other nations are doing the same as well. But of course, fortunately, it requires quite good funding to have the equipment to do the proper underwater tapping. So I would say that the submarine cables definitely are one of the safest parts of our global network anyway. And cybersecurity is not the only, or in cybersecurity, you could say that somebody stealing your information is not the only threat. The main threat, I would say, is that you are losing the connection. This is a true picture, actually. I don't know what happened. The story doesn't tell. Then, as a last a quick example of one submarine or submarine cable system project, which the project was called Sea Lion, and we implemented a system called Sea Lion 1, written in a different way. So we, as mentioned earlier, one of the reasons for Cinia to be founded was to create a new direct route between Finland and Central Europe for various reasons. Earlier mentioned as well that most of the traffic today between Finland or the transit traffic going from east through Finland to Europe is going through Sweden. Various routes in Sweden, definitely, but in many cases there is actually kind of a very few cable systems where the whole traffic is transmitted. So we started the project in summer 2014, started to collect the funding, started to do the surveys and the route design. Here we can see some areas where the fishing intensity in the Baltic Sea is high, particularly in Danish and Swedish waters, close to Gotland, island of Gotland. There are some restricted areas for environmental or military purposes or reasons. The route surveys were done in 2014 and 15. So in the first phase as a desktop studies, and then then we mobilized to the marine studies as well. The whole route was we had a channel of about 500 meters, which we surveyed with, as we can see, a three-dimensional diagram. We had to make crossing agreements with about 50 other cable systems, either power cables or telecommunication cables or the gas pipe. Here is actually a North Stream gas pipe, and the small cable down there is our cable. This is a normal size. So when we were going to the environmental permitting, for instance, we usually took a small part of or piece of our cable with us to show that this is by far a smaller environmental harm than any gas pipe or a larger pipe in the sea. So we started the marine installation in about a year ago, in early October, and ended up in Rostock, Germany, in January this year. Actually, we started another end in December in Germany, but the final splice was done in January 13th. So it took about 3 months, 100 days to get the whole marine part or wet part done. Here is the next one, if I can start it up. So it was, all in all, it's 1,200
This animation of
kilometers,
Alcatel-Lucent's
and out of that,
state-of-the-art
about
cable
700
installation
kilometers
vessels
is buried
takes
down
us through the initial phases
to the
of a
seabed
shore-end landing
on the
operation,
depth of 1 meter.
plow deployment and burial of a submarine fiber optic cable. The cable installation vessel sets up as close as possible to the shore for the cable landing, where teams have the hauling and testing equipment ready on the beach. The installation vessel hands a messenger line to a workboat to connect the vessel to the shore. Deck teams attach floats to the cable as it is hauled to the beach. For this particular installation, the hauler is a bulldozer that pulls the messenger and the cable through a quadrant parallel to the beach. Once the cable end is secured on the beach, the floats are removed by divers. The cable is slacked off to the seabed in preparation for the plow launch. The armoured fibre optical cable is loaded into the 30-ton sea plow, which is overboarded, simultaneously controlling the cable, tow wire and umbilical tensions. The umbilical transfer the control commands and burial information to and from the plow control on the vessel to the plow on the seabed. Once through the splash zone, the plow is landed on the seabed and the required ploughing catenary is established. The HD3 series plow can simultaneously lay and bury cables down to water depths of 1,500 meters. Once the towing catenary has been established, the plow team on the vessel articulate the plow, allowing it to penetrate the seabed to the required burial depth. This plough series can plough to 3 metres burial, subject to soil conditions. Burial depth is controlled in 2 ways: raising or lowering the skids relative to the plough chassis or rotating the share about the chassis hinge. The trench depth is determined by either calculation from the skid, chassis hinge and rear stabilised positions, and also directly from the depth skid at the rear of the plough. These ploughs can achieve between 5 and 35 kilometres of burial per day, depending on seabed hardness. The simultaneous lay and bury of the fibre optical cable continues to an agreed plough recovery position. From this position, the cable is surface laid across the seafloor.
So that's basically the way to protect the cable. So if the seabed is soft enough, so normally we are bearing the cable into the seabed to both protect it from vibrations and also sharks, and actually the anchoring is not protected by that, because the anchors are normally going deeper than 1 meter, but some of the fishing equipments will be floating kind of over the buried cable. During our project, we had most of the time 4 vessels, 4 big ships on the Baltic Sea. The one we saw, actually, the Nyberg, which was the installation vessel, but we also had a prelay vessel, which was still once kind of surveying the route so that there isn't any new interfering fish nets or any other obstacles on the way to have interfering the implementation or installation work. And then we had the post-lay inspection vessel as well, which was basically seeing that the burial has happened in a proper way, and also there was an unmanned small submarine to do the covering in the areas where we couldn't bury the cable. We also had 2 branching units, or have 2 branching units in the cable that were already buried there for the future expansion, so we can take up the end of the cable, connect it and take it out. The other one is between Sweden and Lithuania, and the other one is close to Hanko, which most probably we will be implementing already next year. So Cinia's Sea Lion 1 is definitely an important part of the connectivity, not only for Finland, but also from Europe to Russia, and even further over Russia to Asia. And of course, it is a good start for something we called Arctic Connect, which is a new route over the Northeast Passage to make a longer submarine cable to connect Europe and Northern Asia. So we finished the installation of the submarine cable in early this year, and then we started to put the transmission system on top of that. We also have our own cables from Rostock to Frankfurt, and actually approximately at the same time when Usain Bolt actually made his Olympic win in Rio in 200 meters with time 1978. So we could have the first connection between Helsinki and Frankfurt, which was very close in numbers, but actually this is milliseconds and it's a round trip delay time. So that's about my presentation. I'm ready for questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Ari-Jussi, Knaapila. Before giving turn to the audience, actually I have two questions for you in the beginning. First of all, how you see the future of the Seacables, especially when we all know that the amount of the data will be multiplied in coming years. And do you really see for Cinia as a Finnish company that there's a big market, big business in this?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I see that the Finland is on a very important route between Europe and Asia. So our cable at the moment is, of course, improving the connectivity between Finland and Europe, but we are still a peripherum, so we are still the end of the cable. So I would say that it's definitely important for Finland and Cinia also to be part of the global network and bringing up a new route, alternative route between Europe and Asia. That's probably the most important that I see at the moment. Of course, let's say the capacity is increasing quite a lot, but in cybersecurity, as mentioned, the loss of connectivity is even a bigger threat than somebody interfering or getting into your information. Therefore, I would say that the global network requires and needs new routes.
Very good. Actually, my other question is concerning about the security. In many lectures before here, we have heard so many examples of the deep level of our dependence of the digitalization in different services here in Finland. As you very well illustrated, those Seacables are the lifelines for our society. Do you see that there could be a national threat that some hostile nation, for example, would intentionally trying to harm these Seacables and therefore harm our digital services in Finland?
Yeah, and therefore I would say that it is extremely important that there is a diversity in the traffic in any cable, so that there is several nations and several companies using the same cable. So that's the best protection, that nobody really has a need or wish to harm the cable.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments to Ari-Jussi?
Yes, Seppo Borenius. Two questions actually. So how big is this optical transmission business? And the second question is that I saw that you have 100 software developers on board, so how are they actually related to the optical transmission business?
Starting from the last question, they are not directly related to optical transmission at all. We just have two business lines. So we are in the digitalization business, and the infrastructure services is the other part, and the software development and system development is the other part. So we are trying to have a portfolio of services for our customers. The first one, I haven't actually seen any very precise figures. What is the overall amount of dollars related to existing submarine, or let's say international data traffic? But I would assume that we are talking about let's let's say, something between 500 billion to 1,000 billion. But it is quite hard to actually divide it into submarine parts. So normally we are talking about end-to-end services when we are talking about connectivity and the pricing of those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will continue to our second lecturer, Mikael Nyberg, who is the Director General in the Ministry of Transport and Communications. Please, Mikael, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for kind invitation to this venue to give this presentation. I will start with the big picture when this government took the position in spring 2015 with the slightly difficult economic situation we had. It was very clearly adopted in the governmental program that this digitalization of businesses and also this deregulation, that these are the combinations how to get boost in the economy. And we in the Ministry of Transport and Communications, we organized ourselves in a manner that we have the infrastructure structure on the bottom, then we have this information part and then services. And I'm a Director General of the infrastructure, so my job is to think about the platform and how we can better have convergence with the physical infrastructure and communications infrastructure. So how can we be as a platform to growth and businesses? And then my minister, Mrs. Berner, she is in charge of this project called Digi2. It's a government key project. And there you see the headlines, what it consists of. And if I start with the mobility as a service, till today we are very much lacking the digital and the information side or component when we think about traveling from point A to point B. It is often that it is self-service, you drive yourself, or then you have, of course, a public transportation system and transit authorities. But it's mainly self-service. And now we think in the ministry, of course, that because households and businesses, they put so much resources on the transportation, you could easily think that it should be, or it ought to be a better business case. We should have more of a business opportunities in transport sector. And this is why we are pursuing more of a liberal regulation and also open interfaces in the transportation domain. Then there is the Internet of Things. I will come back to that later, but it is considered a promising sector to have growth and business opportunities and of course a source of employment, because the most difficult part today in our society and in Finland is the unemployment, which is totally unacceptable, the present situation. Then there's also the robotics and automatization. One of the key drivers also in the transport sector is the automation. We can see it, of course, on a daily basis in aviation sector, and also it's growing in the vessel, sea transport, but now our aim is pretty much focused on the land transport side. There are many advantages, of course, when it comes to the smooth traveling and the environmental aspects, and also very much safety, because safety is a key driver in automating the transport sector. One of the key issues is also utilization of data and information. We are thinking about the my data concept, that he or she, we all should own our own data and to be able to give permission how to use the data for example commercial services. Information security is of course very important, and it's coming more and more important all the time, because many applications are very vulnerable with possible hacking or something to intentionally harm, and that is why a lot of focus has to be put on the information security side. I will talk about the cable and then also the frequency policy. In general, our intention is to have a very robust networks to increase the capacity and maintain good level of reliability. And in Finland, with broadband connection, I think we have a relatively good situation, but we are with the fixed network, we are lagging behind. And as you can see, more than half of mobile subscriptions have no data cap. And this is something what we are now in conversation with the European Union with regard to the roaming issue. So it's a very topical issue at the moment that EU is pursuing roam like at home, so that you could use your phone also in other European countries like you use it in your home. And of course, it is difficult to maintain the present subscriptions here if the financial model becomes intolerable with the roaming charges from the operators in EU countries. Data cables, we have a very interesting survey ongoing. Our former Prime Minister, Mr. Paavo Lipponen, and former Managing Director of FICOM, Mr. Reijo Svento, they are investigating the North-East Passage and the data cable, and they will give their report within a few days. We have been active here in Finland to promote this Seacable because we see that it will bring a lot of more capacity, resilience in the present network, and it will also boost our businesses and give jobs and prosperity. So it is very plausible, and it will continue in a way that we, after we get the report, we will discuss it in the government and see what actions we can take. So, but this will be, I think, very rapidly on the government agenda. This is the how we stand in relation to the other EU countries. You can see that on the mobile broadband connection we are very much ahead. But as I said, we are lagging behind in the fixed network. And this is something we have now taken on our agenda. We have a broadband implementation plan. We are now making a action plan how to make it better, because at the moment the telecom operators are investing on the mobile network, but we see that in the future we need more and more both the fixed and the mobile network, and now we try to find the ways to wake the operators also to invest on the fixed network. We also have a fast broadband project in the sparsely populated areas. That is a scheme where we subsidize the construction of fixed network in the rural part of Finland. And this is something we are, during this autumn or winter, we are also investigating even further possibilities to grant the subsidy, because we still have some difficulties with those companies that have taken to build the local fixed network. As for the universal service, we clearly see the more demand for services all the time. We are in Finland using a lot of data, and this is something we are, of course, try to tell in the European Union, in the Commission and the Council, that we should, of course, try to make the system work that everybody has possibility to use as much data as possible. And but at the moment, the universal service is limited to 2 megabytes, and then the long-term plan or goal is to increase the speed to 10 megas by 2021. One of the interesting issues is to see the number of data we are using and the constant battle how to get more frequencies to the mobile network. And we are leading clearly, and that is, of course, due to the on-demand services, YouTube and Netflix, and we see that by the 2020 a lot of the TV is watched on the through the mobile or fixed broadband network, and this is why we are taking some of the frequencies away from the traditional TV, and we are at the end of this month we are going to have a licensing auction of frequencies. So those 700 megahertz band will be auctioned, I think, within 2 weeks, and those licenses will be issued at the end of this year. So we are trying to issue more and more frequencies to the mobile network. Then the 5G, there is a lot of discussion on the 5G development have some test laboratories. I think it was Ericsson and Aalto University and Nokia. They have test licenses. We have some transportation pilot projects in the northern part of Finland, in Lapland, where we try to pilot the automation in winter conditions. And so I think there are a lot of potential and a lot of applications emerging to use the 5G, but those frequencies will be allocated to only 2019 in the WRC conference, and after that, I think after a few years, it will be on a commercial use. Of course, it will mean more capacity and less latency, and with the safety critical applications like transport sector, it is of course welcomed to have more robust system. One of the issues is, of course, the European Union level discussions with these frequency bands and the use and the timetable, how to manage the auctions and the licensing. And we have a new telecom package from the Commission. It's been issued, and the Council will start to work with it in the beginning of next year, and we have constant discussion with the Commission with regard to the jurisdiction and who is doing what in the frequency domain. On the one hand, we need to keep the frequencies within the national administration. On the other hand, you can imagine that there are a lot of business opportunities when you have harmonized frequencies and licensing. So this is something we have to now try to find the balance between our national view and the EU view. Some harmonization, of course, and some timetables or timelines are welcomed, in my opinion, so that we can have a better coordination within the EU countries. The last slide is the Internet of Things, which is it's a very wide topic, and there are a lot of things ongoing with the machine-to-machine network, and we think that it of course needs a lot of network capacity, but it will give Finnish companies' ability to take advantage of their own potential and strength. So this is something we and the Ministry of Economics, Enterprise and Employment, this is both on both of the agenda, both ministries, and this is where we see that according to study made in Finland, this could offer 1,000 new workplaces next year, and another study says that it could offer more than 50,000 new jobs by 2023 if we stay in front runner of the technology. So even with the challenges with the broadband connections and the spectrum and information security and privacy, I would like to end by saying that I think we have a good, positive work ongoing at the moment with the present government, and despite the difficulties and the financial situation, we think that we can, during the next 2 years, to have positive outcome and with these tools. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikael. Very interesting. And I have to say that I think we all agree with you that there are lots of activities ongoing at the moment in your ministry. And I think the speed is accelerating in many ways. But what would you summarize? Because I know that we want to be global forerunners in digitalization in Finland, and I fully agree with you that we have all the opportunities to be that kind of nation in the whole world. But what would you summarize? What are the main challenges what you are struggling in your work or in your ministry at the moment that you have to win in order to reach this objective?
Well, I think it's been very difficult perhaps to convince the decision makers and of course the present confederations and associations, and it's for example the transport is very conservative sector, and if you have a very new ideas and no matter how right you think you are, it's these processes are so slow, and sometimes you think that we really need the wisdom and we really need to be fast, because if we are not fast enough, so we won't get all the benefits. So I would say that the time is now. We have to be very courageous and take the opportunity and go forward. We cannot estimate or anticipate all the effects, but we have to keep moving now. And this has been sometimes perhaps a bit frustrating to see how slow everything is. And as you said, we have a lot of potential, but now is not to put brake. We have to accelerate now.
Okay, we will do that. Another question. How important you see what Ari-Jussi was speaking earlier, the role of the Seacables, and especially like you mentioned that you will receive soon Paavo Lipponen's and Reijo Svento's report concerning on this northeast possible cable connection straight from Finland to Asia. Is that important?
Yes, it is very, very important. It's somewhat a delicate matter because of the current situation in politics. But to have to be the first from where the cable starts, it could be like Ireland with the Atlantic route. So we see that it's a good opportunity to have those jobs and businesses in Finland. And our standpoint in the Ministry of Transport has been that if we can have the political will with all the states, we should go forward with it. And the next stage is, of course, to discuss it in the Finnish government, and then if we go further to find the business model and how to do it. But it looks promising, and we will certainly try to pursue that, and it is important.
I think Ari-Jussi is very happy with that answer. Any questions, comments to Mikael?
My name is Simo Salo. Now that you are building this wonderful platform for digitalization, and you also mentioned deregulation, do you see there's a risk that multinational companies will find this nice platform and they fill the Finland with their wonderful services, and all the employment will move to the foreign countries? Or is it a risk at all, or is that what we want to happen?
Yes, I was going to say that is what we have wanted to happen, but I'm not quite sure about the last part of your question, whether we wanted to move then elsewhere. But we have asked Ford company to come to Finland to pilot automotive vehicles in Lapland in harsh conditions, and we have tried to do that very much, and that is one of the issue with the deregulation, that we could get more interest from outside. Yes, we want that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mikael. I have to say that this was like a planned, that your last slide is about Internet of Things, because we will continue this public lecture series after 1 week, and next Tuesday our topic is Internet of Things. So see you then. Thank you.